And now we will listen to Professor Dr. Yanko Choi. Uh, I hope the correct pronunciation. I would like to read his biography. He received his PhD from University of Paris, Aix-Nanterre, France in 1997. The subject of his dissertation is the problem of time in Ferdinand de Saussure, which was published by French publisher Hermotten in 2002. Since September 2000, he has taught French linguistics, semiotics, and competitive cultural studies in Department of French Studies at Hankook University of Foreign Studies in Seoul. In connection with his teaching career, his research interests focus particularly on three topics: Saussurean studies, semiotics, and cultural studies. I leave the floor to Professor Dr. Yanko Choi to make his presentation titled The Fiction of Our Time, a very short introduction to history of narratology.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, and I'm very happy to be here with you.
Yes, we are happy too.
And uh, uh, before jumping into the topic, I apologize for my presentation. I was not sufficiently attentive to the topic of this conference, which is concerned with aesthetics.
Uh-huh.
My my presentation is concerned with poetics rather than with aesthetics. So sorry for that, and I
No
didn't
problem.
bring I didn't bring with me Korean stuff. So it's my second
Okay, no
introduction. Okay. Uh, 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 but in the previous session in the morning, we talked about the history of Turkish poetry in terms of modernization, and we talked about narrativity uh, with regard to Kutaf, Kubilihi. I'm not sure about my presentation. It is concerned with narrativity. So my presentation on the history of narrativity or narratology is not completely disconnected with the topic we are dealing with. So uh, let me share my file.
Okay, you can share now, I think.
Uh, mm,
At the bottom of your screen, you will see an icon.
okay. Mm,
First, you should open your file and then share with
I
us.
open the file.
Then,
Maybe the same problem with Kim Kim. Okay. I find. Uh, can you
choose it
see?
from the window. Yeah. No,
Okay.
no. We can see now, but maybe it takes a few seconds. We are waiting.
Uh,
Yes. Yes, we can
okay.
see.
You can see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Mm, You can see.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay.
You can start.
Okay. The title of my presentation. Uh, I can move the the file. Okay. Uh, uh,
You should click your presentation on your own file, not on the screen.
uh, okay. Uh, mm, but I don't know how to move the file. I can move from uh, slide to slide.
You should use your own file to get further.
Okay.
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Uh, uh, as presented in the title of my presentation, uh, I have two problems in mind. One is concerned with the fiction of our time, and the other one is concerned with the history of narratology. Uh, I start by quoting a passage from Nodorov Fry. He wrote a book titled Anatomy of Criticism. I quote from this book. He uh, uh, he distinguishes in this book between five modes of fiction: myth, romance, high mimesis, low mimesis, and irony. According to him, the mode fiction shifts from uh, myth to romance. By romance, he means epic, and to high mimesis. By high mimesis, he means tragedy in the classic ages. And to low mimesis, by low mimesis, he means novels. So now we are in the 19th century. And finally, to irony. By irony, he means naturalism, uh, a la Émile Zola. And he observed this very exciting fact that arriving at the last stage, which is the naturalism, the the the, uh, the naturally the five modes of fiction go around in a circle. It means now we are turning to the mythology. So let me read the passage. These references may help to explain something that might otherwise be a puzzling fact about modern literature. Irony, the last stage of mode of fiction, descends from the low mimetic. It begins in realism and dispassionate observation. But as it does so, it moves steadily towards myth, and dim outlines of sacrificial rituals and dying gods begin to reappear in it. Our five modes evidently go around in a circle. So now we are returning to the mythology nowadays, which is well illustrated, especially by the form of art called SF. Nowadays, SF is salient. Why? Because uh, mythology is a new form of art in our time, according to him. Let me read the second passage I quoted from the same author. What we have said about the return of irony to myth and tragic modes thus holds equally well for comic ones. Even popular literature appears to be slowly shifting its center of gravity to murder story. Murder story were popular in 19th century, even in the first part of 20th century. From a murder story to science fiction. Uh, and at any rate, a rapid growth of science fiction is certainly a fact of about contemporary popular literature. Okay. Uh, uh, Nowadays, we have a new type of narrative desire in the 20th century. I'm a little bit exaggerating. And irony was salient. Our narrative desire was determined by the horizontal axis. The ideal of this axis can be summed up as follows. I'm using the term, the Deleuzian term, becoming animal. But nowadays, we are in the transit of, in terms of narrative desire. We shift from irony to contemporary mythology or SF. And narrative desire is determined not by the horizontal axis, but the vertical axis. And the ideal of this axis can be summed up as follows, becoming God. So we want to go upward to reach the top. That is the due this narrative desire we share in our in our world. That is my hypothesis. And the second problem is with the history of narratology. I want to quote a passage from Arnaud Schmitt. He is a French narratologist. He wrote an article called Narratological Praxis. He concludes with this rather pessimistic vision of the future of narratology. Let me read. In other words, narratology is predominantly on practice, academic practice, which, for all the reasons mentioned above and in Baroni's article, is running out of steam. Its influence is constrained by the current academic landscape, which in France, at least, is not particularly auspicious. For this reason, we can be somewhat pessimistic about its future. My question is this: how to renew the history of narratology without being falling in the trap of pessimism? So I think we have, it's my theory, we have two types of theory. On the one hand, history independent theory, and on the other hand, history dependent theory. In the first case, which is history independent theory, theory is presumed to transcend history. Theory doesn't care about its historical limits because it focuses on objectivity, universality. So when we deal with its past, it's simply the past. But in the case of history-dependent theory, theory is not transcendental. Theory is immanent to history. Theory cares about its limits and takes the limits as a resource for development. As for the examples of this type of field, I will cite. I think I can cite anthropology, semiotic, narratology. For instance, if you read Jacques Fontani's work entitled Soma et Sema, meaning and body, he started with describing the history of semiotics. So everything goes as if we cannot renew the theory without redescribing its history. So the history is already there when you renew the theory. So theory here is historically dependent. So that's why I think it's important to think about the history of narratology if you want to evaluate the narratological breakthrough. Uh, 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 in the traditional approach to this historiography of narratology, people tend to use a very simple dichotomy, for instance, structural or post-structural. And every theoretical breakthrough is classified, categorized under the heading of post. So it's a simple way of describing the history of narratology. For instance, I quote this work called Post-Classical Narratology, which was written by Monica Pludonik and John Albert. It's a very good reference, and I'm not criticizing this work, but the vision which is at work in describing the history of narratology, and say something about that. They use the distinction between classical and post-classical in order to make sense of the history of the narratology. But the problem is this, as I said, every theoretical breakthrough is predetermined by the prefix post. So my proposal is redescribing the history of narratology in terms of narrativity. In terms of narrativity, so nowadays, narrativity is a hot issue in the field of narratology, as I coded on the left side. There are many references dealing with the question of narrativity. Let me quote a passage from Pyre. In this passage, Pyre said that narrativity is very difficult to define. What is narrativity? But what constitutes narrativity? Can narrativity be defined by its formal features? Is it one narrative category among others? Are there types of narrativity, degrees of narrativity? Do narrative possess narrativity? Or do they exhibit narrativity? Do they produce narrativity? Or are they produced by narrativity? Does narrativity in, say, a novel differ from narrativity in a short story or a film? Can narrativity be perceived in different ways? To the last question, I can answer in this way. Yes, narrativity can be perceived in different ways. And I want to add this phrase to this formulation. Uh, Narrativity can be perceived in different ways with the change of times. So I do not want to theorize narrativity, but I want to historicize narrativity. Uh, So rather than theorizing narrativity, it's better to historicize narrativity. In this way, we can make sense of narrativity. Theoretically, it is difficult. It is almost impossible to define the narrativity. But uh, different uh, uh, era have a different form of narrativity. Uh, Different era have a preference for different form of narrativity. That is my thesis. Uh, so if I uh, 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 you can interrupt me if I uh, we
Yes,
the running up.
yes, yes.
Huh? It's okay.
Okay, you have some time. Okay, go on,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Uh, 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 so far, narrativity issues have been dealt with in regard to a narrative. My first claim is that those issues, narrativity issues, cannot be solved unless narrativity is historicized. And a way of historicizing narrativity is to view narrativity as a form of narrative desire. That is my second claim. Different eras have different narrative desire. Uh, for instance, according to Northrop Frye, in ancient times, as in the previous presentation, which deals with Homer's Iliad, in Greek times, people are fanatic about myths, that is, stories about gods. In Middle Ages, people are excited about stories of heroes or heroines. In the classical period, people are enthusiastic about the lifestyle of the aristocracy at court. In 19th century, people are interested in the privacy of individuals. Nowadays, people tend to be immersed in SF, science fiction, and game storytelling, etc., etc. Different narrative desires bring about different concepts of narrativity. So uh, uh, there is not one universal objective concept of narrativity. Different era have different conception on narrativity. That's uh, uh, my thesis. And how to make sense of the history of narratology. In the field of narratology, there is one concept which is not debatable. That is the distinction between story and discourse. Uh, and I uh, 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 reinterpret this distinction from the point of view of the narrative communication. Story can be viewed as belonging to message part, and discourse can be viewed as belonging to sender part, and the receiver part is empty for now. I propose to periodicize the history of narratology as follows. There are three stages uh, in the development of narratology. Structural narratology. Uh, this theory comes out of two different traditions. One is grammatical tradition, uh, 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 which defines narrativity in terms of story or in terms of message from the point of view of the narrative communication. And rhetorical, there, on the other hand, there is a rhetorical tradition which defines the narrativity in terms of discourse. So in the concept of narrativity, the center part is salient. And after structural narratology comes around what I want to call cognitive narratology. In this narratology, the important part, the focus shifts from text or sender to reader. Reader plays very important role in defining the narrativity. And nowadays, we have another form of theory, which can be called transmedial narratology. In this theory, what is at stake is not sender part or message part or receiver part, but whether the context that I want to rephrase world. World making is the focus of narrativity. So let me show the model of the historiography of narratology. There is a communication model which is based on the three parties: sender, message, receiver. Rhetorical tradition define narrativity in terms of sender part, and grammatical tradition defines narrativity in terms of message part or text part. And those two traditions came together to form what we call structural narratology. What is at stake in the structural narratology is not simply the story or discourse, but the relation between story and discourse, as argued by Gerard Junet in his work on the discourse of the narrative. And in cognitive narratology, the focus is on the receiver part. So receiver became the focal point in this narrative theory. And transmedial narratology focus not on sender, message, or a receiver, but on the word-making process. Word-making process become the focal point in transmedial narratology. I borrowed this idea from Terry Eagleton, especially his work on literary theory. Let me quote this passage. Let me read the quote. What might very roughly periodize the history of modern literary theory in three stages: a preoccupation with the author, Romanticism and the 19th century, an exclusive concern with the text, new criticism, and a marked shift of attention to the reader over recent years. What happened in the long history of modern literature happened in the to the short history of narratology. That is my claim. Because of running out of time, I'm going very fast. In the grammatical tradition of structural narratology, the hypothesis is this: narrative can be reduced to a sentence or a verb, and a sentence or a verb can be extended to a narrative. So narrative is modeled on the basis of sentence, as sentence is composed of subject and predicate. Narrative is analyzed in terms of the function between agent and action. And in this structural narratology, the preferred text of analysis are fairy tales, myths, short stories, etc. And in the rhetorical tradition of the structural narratology, the hypothesis is this: narrative is a form of art which is always mediated by a narrator. So narrator is very important in this rhetorical tradition, and the narrator mobilize three
Professor, sorry, but you have 5 minutes left.
Okay. Okay. Three narrative devices. Person. Person can be either first person or a third person, and perspective. Perspective can be either internal or external, and mode. Mode can be narrator mode, or either narrator mode or reflector mode. Narrator use those narrative device to reorganize the story. Okay. So I skip at the structural narratology. What is at stake here is the relationship between story and discourse. Okay. In the cognitive narratology, the reader part is salient when you define the concept of narrativity. Let me read the slide. Narrativity is constructed through the process of reading. If the grammatical tradition of structural narratology is focused on the text part of the narrative communication, and if the rhetorical tradition is focused on the writer part, cognitive narratology is focused on the reader part. So let me read a passage I quoted from Fludanic. I here argue that narrativity is a function of narrative text and centers on experientiality of anthropomorphic nature. And okay, in this field of cognitive narratology, the text type of analysis are novels, which are called stream of consciousness novels. And the hypothesis of transmedial narratology is this: fictional story world comes prior to the fictional storyline. In this theory, what is at stake is not storyline, but story world. World formation turns into world formation. That is important point. So let me read a passage I quoted from Jenkins, who created the concept of transmedia storytelling. Transmedia storytelling is the art of world making. To fully experience any fictional world, consumers must assume the role of hunters and gatherers, chasing down with each other via online discussion groups and collaborating to ensure that everyone who invests time or effort will come away with a richer entertainment experience. End quote. Okay. So this is summary of my presentation, and I directly go to the last page of my uh, PowerPoint. My question is this: how to combine those two narrative desires? On the one hand, becoming God, and on the other hand, creating and habitating a world. I think today's narratology has to give an answer to this question. Okay, thank you for your attention.